Good morning. The time is 8:30, and I'd like to call the November 7th, 2019 Enforcement Committee to order. Can we please take roll?
Nancy Springer has an excused absence. Frank Altamura?
Here.
Susan Granzella?
Here.
Mike Layton?
Here.
Diana Love?
Here.
Quorum is established.
We have a quorum. All right. Chair Nancy Springer has an excused absence. I am Mike Layton, an Enforcement Committee member who will take over in her absence today. And at this time, would Frank please lead us in the pledge?
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we dive into the agenda items, I would like to take a moment to introduce one of our newest board members, Diana Love. Diana was appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom to represent California's senior consumers. Diana is a member and immediate past president of the Los Angeles County Commission for Older Adults, and additionally is very active in representing all the members of our community. Diana recently took part in the Solar Consumer Protection Government Task Force that was also attended by the representatives of the California Public Utility Commission and the Department of Business Oversight. The staff of the Contractors State License Board Valencia office are excited to have a board member nearby as Diana lives in Palmdale. Please join me in welcoming Diana Love to the Board of Enforcement Committee. Only board members who are members of the committee may sit at the table. All other board members who are in attendance must observe from the audience. If a quorum of the board is present, those members who are observing cannot participate in the discussion. Becky, can you please start by, well, we've already called roll and we've already established that we do have a quorum. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite the committee members and staff to introduce themselves, and let's start to my right with Rick.
Hi, good morning. Rick Lopes, Chief of Public Affairs.
Missy Vickery, Chief of Enforcement.
Diana Love, board member.
Susan Granzella, board member.
Dave Foe, Registrar.
Mike Layton, board member.
Frank Altamura, board member.
Tanya Corcoran, Chief Deputy Registrar.
Christy Shilge, counsel for the board.
Becky Like, Enforcement.
All right, at this time, public comment for items not on the agenda and future agenda item requests. Seeing none. Next, we'll go into agenda item B, our public comment section. To allow the committee enough time to conduct its full schedule of business, I'll be limiting public comments to 3 minutes apiece. Please note that the state law prohibits committee members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment. We're also not allowed to act on any item not on the agenda. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can speak to us and consider placing it on an agenda for a future meeting. If you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you do not discuss the details of the case or pending complaint. Committee members are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. Please be aware that this will not be that this will be the public's only opportunity to make comments during the meeting. If your comments are related to a specific agenda item, you can make your comments now, but you may want to wait until the item comes up for discussion. We'll be sure to ask for public comment before acting on each item. Any public comment at this time? Are there any members of the public who wish to address the committee or to offer an agenda item for a future meeting? Do any of the committee members have an item that they would like to place on a future meeting agenda? Well, I guess we'll move on to page 7, agenda item C. This item starts on page 9 of the packet with an update on the CSLB's disaster response and proactive enforcement in the disaster areas. In addition to the staffing of local assistance centers, LAC for the Sandalwood and Sandal Ridge fires, as reported in the packet, resources and staff have been dispatched to assist those who have been victimized by the Kincaid and Getty fires. Keep on. In mid-October, statewide investigative fraud team SWIFT conducted a sting operation in the Coffee Park disaster area in Santa Rosa with the assistance of the Sonoma County and Marin County District Attorney's offices. The two-day operation resulted in the issuance of 12 notices to appear in criminal court for unlicensed practices and 1 stop order for lack of workers' compensation insurance. I am now going to turn over to the Chief of Enforcement, Missy Vickers, to discuss internal policy and procedure changes to reduce expenditures and the general complaint handling statistics. Missy?
Thank you, Mike. Beginning on page 9, you'll find that enforcement has developed and implemented measures to reduce expenditures while not compromising consumer protection. I'd like to highlight some of those processes that we have implemented. We are taking a close look at vacant positions, but are optimistic that with the emergency fee increase that we'll be able to fill all vacant positions. We have also increased the use of the letter of admonishment. Between January and September 2019, we have issued 165 letters of admonishment and 119 fewer citations compared to the same time period last year. Issuing letters of admonishment allow us to resolve cases with informal conferences, office conferences, rather than a referral to the AG and a hearing before an administrative law judge. A letter of admonishment can include a corrective action plan, and if the corrective action plan requirements are not met, we can withdraw that letter of admonishment and issue a citation. Public disclosure of a letter of admonishment is 1 year. On page 10, you will see information pertaining to administrative citations. CSLB issues administrative citations for egregious violations of the law. On October 24th, CSLB staff met with AG leadership and the presiding law judge to discuss the need for higher civil penalties. This meeting has afforded us the opportunity to meet with judges statewide. We will be discussing the need to increase the maximum assessment of civil penalties during the next agenda item. In January 2019, CSLB received authorization to conduct informal citation conferences in order to resolve appealed citations. This process has proven very effective, and CSLB does not incur costs of the AG representation, and conferences can be scheduled more quickly than a formal appeal hearing. Moving on to complaint handling, which begins on page 10 of your packet, you will see that caseloads remain manageable. Complaint negotiation efforts by staff have successfully assisted in getting more than $18 million in restitution to injured parties. Staff have been consistent in continuing to achieve board goals and objectives of dispositioning an average of 10 complaints a month. Arbitration still proves to be an effective tool, with 638 cases initiated, resulting in $3 million in restitution. That concludes my update, Mike.
Is there any committee discussion on this item? Is there any public comment on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll go to section D, possible amendments to the Business and Professional Code, and you can follow along on page 13. Moving to agenda item D on page 13, review discussion and possible actions to pursue legislation to amend Business and Professional Code under Section 7099.2. We will be discussing two issues for the committee's consideration. Issue number 1 involves civil penalty assessments, and issue number 2 involves letters of admonishment. Issue number 1 addresses the desire to increase the civil penalty assessments through threshold amount. Currently, Business and Professional Code 7099.2, Section B establishes $5,000 as the maximum civil penalty allowed for most violations of contractors' license law. Only violations of Business Professional Code 7114, aiding, abetting, and conspiring, and BPC hiring an unlicensed contractor allow for the maximum penalty of $15,000. Additionally, filing a false workers' compensation insurance exemption, a violation of the section 7125.4, has a maximum penalty of $5,000. The maximum cap on a civil penalty assessments was last increased in 2003, and the violation-specific cap was instituted in 1992, has never been adjusted to reflect the increases in California's Consumer Price Index, CPI. Since 1992, the California Consumer Price Index has increased 92%, and since 2003, it has increased 48%. Applying the respective CPI increases to existing caps would bring the general cap to $7,400 and the violation-specific amount to $28,800. The Business Professional Code Section 7125.4 makes it a cause for discipline for a contractor to have employees without providing workers' compensation. The maximum civil penalty of $5,000 does not reflect current economic conditions in the state's construction industry. This prospective C8 contractor, concrete contractor who has 10 full-time employees and a payroll of $500,000 would pay an estimated annual workers' comp insurance premium of from $28,000 to $40,000 per State Compensation Insurance Fund's website. For some licensees, the $5,000 civil penalty is a small price to pay in relationship to the actual cost of insurance for their employees. With rounding and some allowance for future CPI increases, staff proposes raising the general gap for civil penalties from $5,000 to $8,000, raising the violation-specific cap from $15,000 to $30,000, and including violations of Section 7125.4 as one of the violation-specific penalty assessments listed in the BPC Section 7099.2, subsection B. Therefore, raising the maximum penalty from $5,000 to $30,000. Is there any committee discussion on this item? Is there any public comment on this item? So at this time, we have a motion that I would like to ask for a motion that the Enforcement Committee recommend to the full board to pursue a legislative proposal to, 1, amend Business and Professional Code Section 7099.2, sub B, to increase the maximum civil penalty assessment specified from $5,000 to $8,000 and from $15,000 to $30,000 for violations of Business and Professionals Code 7114 and 7118, and number 2, add violations of Business and Professional Code 7125.4, filing false claim exemptions for workers' compensation insurance to the violation-specific penalty assessment listed in the statute. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Becky, would you take roll, please?
Nancy Springer has an excused absence. Frank Altamura,
Yes.
Susan Granzella. Mike Layton. Diana Love.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Issue number 2, as it applies to the Business Profession Code, Section 7099.2 addresses the inclusion of more than one violation of the contractor's state license law in a single letter of admonishment issues to a license. Currently, Business and Profession Code, Section 7099.2, subsection C6, precludes the use of a LOA if a multiple violations have been established to ensure that the LOA not be issued to rigorous offenders for whom a citation or citation or sessions would be more appropriate closing actions. However, many CSLB consumers complaint investigations establish multiple minor non-hazardous violations. An example of this is when a consumer files a complaint and the licensee agrees to settle any financial dispute. However, the licensee is out of name, style, and contact does not comply with home improvement contract requirements. These investigations might be appropriate for closure of a LOA, particularly one that includes a corrective action plan. The unintended consequences of the restriction are as follows. The field investigator who establishes multiple minor violations and elected to use the LOA can select only one of the violations for use in the LOA. Number 2, the additional violations will be disregarded and will not be captured in the CSLB's database, making them unavailable in future investigations into the same licensee. 3, additionally, the alternative to the LOA in the event of multiple violations would be the issuance of a citation for non-rigorous violations which have proven costly and result in delays in the resolution for the consumer and compliance by the contractor. Is there any committee discussion at this time? Are there any public comment at this time? Well, I'd ask for a motion. At this time, I would like for a motion pursue that the Enforcement Committee recommend that the full board pursue a legislative proposal to eliminate a multiple violation restriction for letters of acknowledgement in the Business and Professional Professions Code, Section 7099-2, sub C. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any public comment at this time?
So I just have a minor technical suggestion for the motion. Instead of saying approve the legislative proposal, that you authorize staff to pursue a legislative proposal, because it's not just approving the concept, but moving it forward to the legislature.
Thank you. I believe that's the way it was written, and I just did not read it properly.
Okay.
So if I may, at this time, I would like to ask for a motion that the Enforcement Committee recommend that the full board pursue a legislative proposed to eliminate the multi-violation restriction of letters of admonishment in the Business and Professional Code, Section 7099.2, sub C. It was all there rightly. I just could not read my own writing. So therefore, we do have a second. Yes. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, Becky, would you please take roll?
Yes, Nancy Springer, again, an excused absence. Frank Altamura.
Aye.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Diana Love.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. We're going to go to item E, On page 21, this is an update on the 2019 to 21 Enforcement Strategic Plan objectives. In reviewing the 2019 through 21 strategic plan that begins on page 23 of the packet, the Enforcement Division has been very successful in meeting the objectives set forth. I am now going to turn the discussion over to Missy Vickery for the strategic plan update. Missy, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mike. We previously discussed objectives 2.1 through 2.9, so today I'll brief you on items 2.7 and 2.9. For item 2.7, which is to provide training opportunities to improve morale and staff knowledge, on October 14th, Christy Schild of DCA's Legal Affairs Division presented specialized training to all supervisors and managers in CSLB's Enforcement Division. The training focused on the elements required for 3 violations of the Business and Professions Code. One was 7114, aiding and abetting an unlicensed contractor. 2 was 7118, hiring an unlicensed contractor. And 3 was 7117, acting as a contractor under unlicensed name or personnel. Thank you, Christy, for that. And next, for item 2.9, which is attend job fairs to promote employment opportunities at CSLB, I'd like to thank Becky Like for representing CSLB at a career fair at Sacramento State on September 30th and October 1st. Becky and another CSLB employee spoke with many individuals regarding CSLB employment opportunities, as well as explained the path to licensure to those that were interested in obtaining a license. So it was a twofold effort, and they were very successful. That concludes my update.
Thank you. Is there any committee discussion on this item? Are there any public comments on this item? Well, that concludes our agenda items. And at this time, can I have a motion to adjourn the Enforcement Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Becky?
Nancy Springer absent. Frank Altamura.
Yes.
Susan Granzella.
Yes.
Mike Layton.
Yes.
Diana Love.
Yes.
The Public Affairs Committee meeting will start in 10 minutes.